You would think this was a two-horse race, wouldn't you? Between the Conservatives on 38% and the Lib Dems on 32%, until you look at the very, very tiny small print at the bottom.
With the UK heading into a general election on December 12th, I have a couple of brilliant examples of British media going hard on politicians over their BS. Now, first, I have Susanna Reid of Good Morning Britain. She has on Matt Hancock, Conservative MP and Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, and she just absolutely wrecks him over Tory cuts. Watch.
Under a Tory government, 21,000 police officers were lost.
Well, we're putting 20,000 more police on our streets, and I think that is incredibly welcome to people.
That doesn't even cover the cuts, Mr. Hancock.
Well, this is about what we're going to do in the future. And in the future, we're going to have more police on our streets and tackle crime.
No, sorry, we won't even have as many police officers as you cut.
Yes, we will. We're having 20,000 new police officers. In fact, the first 7,000 are already being recruited.
You cut 21,000 police officers.
We're going to have more police on our streets, as I say. It's about focusing on people's
priorities. Well, only because you
priorities.
cut the number of police officers.
Well, Boris Johnson has only been Prime Minister for just under 6 months. In that time, he's already successfully got an agreement with the EU, which people didn't think he was going to be able to. He's committed to the biggest hospital building programme in a generation. That wasn't happening until he became Prime Minister. He's committed to 20,000 more police and to increasing standards in schools and levelling up the spending on schools.
Yes,
these are the people's priorities.
Yes, and
there's nothing unfortunate about it. It's a
of,
great positive domestic
but
agenda.
But under austerity, Mr. Hancock, you know that really all you're doing is trying to fix the things that you caused.
That was awesome. This is the kind of thing you really don't see all that often in America or Canada. I mean, she just completely laid out conservative policy. Cuts, 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 and then an election comes around. Oh, we're investing into this, we're investing into this. But are you investing more than you cut? I mean, and the police force isn't even really like the main issue here. There are cuts across the board when it comes to the Tory plan of austerity. So looking at the CNN headline here, the UK's austerity policies have left thousands without enough food, Human Rights Watch says. Then you have the British Media Journal saying food insecurity in UK is among worst in Europe, especially for children, says committee. And of course, the cuts don't just affect welfare programs and food insecurity, but also healthcare. This from The Independent. Tory cuts leave up to half of hospitals caring for patients amid sewage leaks, collapsing ceilings, and stuck lifts, analysis finds. NHS facing a $6 billion repair bill as years of cuts push hospitals to rack and ruin, and 45% report incidents delaying patient care. So there's cuts all across the board. And there's this ridiculous idea that austerity leads to prosperity, that if you just keep cutting, well, eventually the economy is going to grow. People are going to earn higher wages. The healthcare is going to be saved through cuts somehow. This is constant. And conservative parties in all countries that do this understand that this is not popular, but that's why they go when it comes election time. Oh, all of a sudden, well, we're going to invest into this, and you know it's completely empty. I mean, how many times have people been fooled by these conservative governments, and not just conservative, but also many liberal governments that act in much the same way in terms of neoliberal policy of privatization and cuts. This is both a conservative and a liberal issue. Luckily, in this upcoming election, you have a choice with Labour that is actually looking to invest back into people as opposed to cutting programs and privatization and the usual when it comes to most conservative and liberal governments. This next clip I want to show you, another takedown of a politician here. So this is Sophie Ridge of Sky News, who, by the way, didn't fare well in a video I covered when she interviewed Corbyn during the last election. But she did a fantastic job here. So she had on Liberal Democrat leader Joe Swinson and basically just completely, dismantled her over her dishonest campaign literature.
That is some of the campaign literature that your party has been pumping out. And you've got a bit of a reputation for doing this in the past as well. Now, I just want to have a look at this. This is North East Somerset, the Lib Democrats North East Somerset, Liberal Democrat campaign literature, results of a survey done in the constituency of Jacob Rees-Mogg. You would think this was a two-horse race, wouldn't you, between the Conservatives on 38% and the Lib Dems on 32%, until you look at the very, very tiny small print at the bottom, which says the question was, imagine that the result in your constituency was expected to be very close between the Conservative and Liberal Democrat candidate, and none of the other parties were competitive. In this scenario, which party would you vote for? And I just want to show the last result from this constituency at the last election, which hopefully we should be able to bring up now, which shows that actually the Conservatives were on 53% and Labour on 34%, the Lib Dems on 8.3%. I mean, this is entirely misleading, isn't it?
Well, I think politics has changed significantly since the 2017 election.
On.
No, it has.
No, this is embarrassing.
No, it has. It has. Look, in May, the last national elections that we had in this country, the Liberal Democrats beat both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. That is the first time that's happened for 100 years. Something very different is happening in politics now. Why don't you just show the national polling?
I mean, that is misleading.
Well, it was a specific poll in that particular seat, and we've labelled what the question was clearly. And in the local elections, I mean, in that constituency, Jacob Rees-Mogg now has a Liberal Democrat councillor, right? So the Liberal Democrats have been making progress and winning in that area, and part of the reason for that is that the people who voted Labour in 2017 because they thought that Labour would stand up to remain in the EU have been bitterly disappointed, and they know that now it's the Liberal Democrats who are the place to vote for if you want to stop Brexit.
How can you criticise some of the stuff that was said in the EU election campaign when you are pumping out things that are misleading as well? I mean, this is like the £350 million on the side of a bus.
Look, I mean, we've said exactly what the question is. It's labelled on there what the question is that it relates to. So anybody that's interested in looking at it can read what that question is.
All right. There's just no way to defend that graph. I mean, it's obvious they're trying to play people with, oh, look how close the Lib Dems are to winning this race. I mean, she says here, Joe Swinson says, the politics have changed since the last election. Oh, politics have changed. If they've changed, then you wouldn't have to invent a poll that makes it look like you're about to take over the Conservatives instead of the Labour Party, which is actually in position to win that riding. So this is just completely dishonest, totally absurd, and good on Sophie Rich here for calling this out and pushing her on it and not letting her get away and squirm away from this. The idea that any party, I mean, if the Labour put that out, I would be pissed about that because it wouldn't look good. There's absolutely no way to defend a graph like that. So two great examples here of the British media doing their job and going above and beyond what we normally see from the media in the US and in Canada.